Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate center double crochets. Now this is a stitch I learned from my friend Becky Durlam, who runs the site Grammy Durlam, and I will be linking to her site in the blog post that will be about this YouTube video. So I hope you do go check it out. This is a stitch she taught me. It's something she learned from her grandma, and I think it's really neat. Basically, it's worked just like a standard double crochet, except I've actually got this swatch upside down here. There we go. We go into a slightly different part of the stitch, and you can see if you look at these double crochets, they stack right on top of each other. With normal double crochets, let me pull in a different swatch here that I made. Standard double crochets, there's a little bit of a lean. You're always slightly offset because, oops, this one's upside down too. There we go. You're slightly offset because the when you work into that top V, it's not directly on top of the post. It's off to the side. But with these center double crochets, they stack up perfectly straight. The other difference is that the fabric made with these is just a bit less stretchy. It's a lot more solid than a standard double crochet fabric. So that can be actually really useful if you're doing something like a bag or a purse or something where you don't want a lot of stretch. So let me show you how it's done. It can be done in both rows and rounds. I'm going to demonstrate it in the round first. Here I have a swatch where I've already made a row of this in the round. And the reason I want to show you this real quick is because if you start with the usual chain 3 and then go into the next one for the first stitch, you're going to have a big lean there. Because the center double crochet is worked in the middle of the post below it, you create a big gap there. So if you're working this in the round, I would recommend, first of all, always join to the same place you make these stitches, which I'll be showing you here in a minute, and also to either do a chain 2 and work into the same stitch, or to do a chainless starting double crochet or some other technique rather than a chain 3, because I feel like with this stitch, it's particularly noticeable. In fact, before I show you real quick, here is a sample I made of this stitch worked in the round. Oh, all my swatches are upside down tonight. Sorry about that. There we go. And you can see the join is right there, but I've joined to the center where we make the stitch. So it's a lot less noticeable. The other thing about making this particular stitch in the round is because they are stacked right on top of each other, you don't get that big lean that you normally get when working in the round, the seam lean. The seam is nice and straight, which is fantastic. So, as I said, let's get started. Here I've just got a long row of double crochets that I'm going to join to work in the round so I can show you how to work this stitch in the round. Now, I've got my first one here. They've actually started with some foundation double crochets, so I've got a little chain 2 here I'm going to ignore. So I'm going to go into this is the first stitch. Now, normally, I would join right under the top 2 loops here, the top 2 loops of the V. However, this is a little different. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to look, let me put this down real quick here. If we really look at the anatomy of a double crochet stitch, you can see there's the top V here, but then right underneath it, there's another V right there. And what we want to do for this stitch is stick the hook between those 2 loops right there. And because I've been playing with this, so of course this one's going to be a little fiddly, but there we go, and I come out right and back. So that is where I'm going to slip stitch, and indeed where I'm going to be working the center double crochet stitches. So let me just finish my slip stitch here. Hopefully you already know how to slip stitch. If not, I've got a video for that, so you can look it up. Okay, so let's start our actual stitch. Now, for the sake of quickness here, I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. Pull up a little more yarn to work with. I'm going to make my first center double crochet right in the same space that we joined to. So I'm just going to go right on through and make a double crochet just as you normally would. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Standard double crochet as far as that goes. The only difference here is where we insert the hook. So we move to the next one, and we can see there's the top V here, and then there's that V underneath right here. And if you really pull it apart, you can see there's some more strands of yarn. There's actually 2 more that are vertical right there. We ignore those. We can leave those off to the side. So we're going to yarn over, go right between, right there, straight through to the back, and then work the double crochet just as you normally would. Pull through 2, pull through 2. And you can see that these double crochets are stacking right on top. So let's do that once more. Pull up a little bit more yarn to work with here. I'm working with just a standard kitchen cotton today. I like to keep lots of this around, very useful stuff. So we go to the next one. We find that V right underneath there. You noticed on the first one it was kind of tilted to the side. As we go further along the row, they're a little more facing forward, which is great. So we go right in between those 2 strands right there, on through to the back, and work the double crochet just as we normally would. Okay, now if I were to continue crocheting around, I would just continue working right in the center of that V right there. Okay, and then the important thing to do is to remember when you come around and you're ready to join to that first stitch, if you've chained 2, don't join to that chain 2, but rather join in the center of the first stitch of the round there. Now, something else I want to show you with this, because that V there is very easy to see when working in the round or all from one side. When we work back and forth in rows, it's going to look a little different because we're going to be in the back of the stitch. So let me show you something here. If we stick the hook on through, as if we were going to crochet in this stitch, and we flip it over, that shows us which stitch we're going to crochet under when we come from the other side. And what it is that horizontal bar right there. Normally, when you work in those top 2 loops, I'd go right here. For this, I'm going to go right here under that horizontal bar. I'll show you here on a swatch that we're going to work back and forth in rows. Here I just have a few double crochets, and again, for the sake of time, I'm just going to chain 2 instead of doing a chainless starting double crochet, which I do think has a finer edge with this pattern, or with this stitch I should say. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my first stitch here in the first stitch, or the last stitch of the previous row. So instead of going right here where I normally would, I'm going to come under this vertical bar right here. On this first one, it can be particularly hard to find. Anybody who's crocheting for a while, you know that first and last stitch of the row can be trickier. So, but you just go under that bar and crochet your double crochet as you normally would. And then again, we're going to yarn over, move to the second stitch. We see there's a vertical bar there. There's another one down here. You don't want to come all the way down here. If you come under this one, you'd be crocheting all the way between the posts, and we don't want to do that. So just under this one here. Insert your hook. This one does take a little bit more time as you're getting used to it, but it has some really neat effects. One more. You can see this one's lined up really nicely. We can almost see the hole right there where the hook's going to go, right there in the center. There we go. Push it through. And there we go, a center double crochet. Now, I have here a swatch of the center double crochet that I worked up using a chain 2 and then starting the first stitch in each row, just like I did in the previous swatch here. And you can see, because these stitches are so straight up and down, the chain 2 hangs over the edge quite a bit. Normally, with regular double crochet, that chain 2 is a lot more subtle. So I mentioned earlier, if you're making this stitch, you may wish to use a chainless starting double crochet. And if you're watching this on YouTube or on my blog, I will have a link on the blog post to a chainless starting double crochet tutorial, so you can learn how to do that. You can see that creates a really nice straight edge, and you don't have that gap that you would get if you were doing a chain 3. And the other thing I want to show you about this, I mentioned before that it's a little bit less stretchy than a standard double crochet. Let me put my hook down here. It's also a little bit shorter. I have here 5 rows of the center double crochet and 5 rows of regular double crochet. And you can see it's just sort of, after 5 rows, we're about half a row shorter. So it's probably maybe the same or a little bit taller than a post stitch. Certainly taller than a half double crochet. Of course, again, depending on your gauge, everybody's a little different, but it is also shorter than a double crochet. So if you're making a pattern that calls for regular double crochet and you want to substitute this one, that is something you'll need to be aware of. But if you're looking for patterns that use this stitch, I don't have any myself yet. I do enjoy it. But again, go to Grammy Durlam, and I will be linking to her site, and you can check out some great patterns that use this stitch there. I want to say thank you so much to my friend Becky for teaching me this stitch. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you like what we do here at mooglyblog.com.